Hey, Garage Gym athletes, before we get started, I wanted to let you know we are upping our Instagram game so we can better educate the industry. The goal is to drown out the influencers in bro science that is social media. If you want to help, screenshot this podcast episode and tag us at Garage Gym Athlete and a friend in your Instagram stories. We'd love to connect, and we will even be sending some free merch to a select few who actually take us up on this 15-second task. So go get it done, and I look forward to connecting with you. All right, now to the show. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. Joe's not here. It's Ashley and Trampus. And
that's how he stops it. Joe's not here.
Well, people need to know off the bat. I think people are starting to like Joe more than they like me, and so I gotta just let them know. But there's a tradition when Joe's not here, we have theme music. Everyone's aware of what happens when it's just me and Trampus, but this is what it is when it's the three of us. There we go. Ashley selected this.
Hey.
All right, we'll get into it. So we are going to go a little bit out of order today. We'll get right into the study. We'll go over the Meet Yourself Saturday workout, and then we'll give some updates on all things life, fitness, where's Ashley been, all those kind of things. So let's get into it. We did a study on carbohydrates. So the ergogenic effects of acute carbohydrates feeding on resistance exercise performance, a systematic review and meta-analysis done in 2022. I'm going to break this one down in a very simple way. So really, I always explain this, but this is a study of studies. When we're doing a meta-analysis or a systematic review, they're looking at more studies. And we do more and more of these because you can take more information out of them. This one specifically was looking at resistance training. And we've talked a lot about, fueling for endurance events, things like that, but we haven't talked about it as much when it comes to resistance training. So that's what they were looking at. I think they had 21 studies that they were looking at.
Down to 16. Yeah.
Yeah, they started with 21, and then they have like this weed out process. And I saw your note, Ashley. That was the first thing that stuck out to me too. There were 214 males and 12 females across the entire thing, which is quite crazy. Reporting more than 5 years resistance training. They were between 20 and 30 years old within the cohorts. And again, this isn't one study, it's multiple studies, and then they set their own criteria. And really they were looking at people who are studies that had used carbohydrates, and then also like a placebo control group. And I'll cut straight to the chase. They really found out that carbohydrates were slightly more beneficial for training. And more specifically, it seemed to be leg training, which makes a lot of sense to me, bigger muscle groups. And time duration mattered, right? Like greater than 45-minute training sessions. And those were the big takeaways. And as someone who is focused a lot on just energy systems and how the body utilizes different macronutrients for fuel, this comes of no surprise to me at all. But there's a lot more that we can pull and unpack from this study. What did you guys pull out of this one?
Ashley.
So for me, like it said 45 minutes or greater saw greater results. They also said that people who had slept 8 hours or longer also saw the best results with the carbohydrates, which makes sense to me because I guess, if you're sleeping and your body is burning what is left over, I guess is what you want to call it, from the night before. For me, though, like when I look at this, we always do this, right? So we always are looking at, for like Garage Gym athletes, we don't train much longer than 45 minutes. I mean, if you think about it, it's sometimes, and it depends, right? It depends on how efficient you are with your blocks. And sometimes it's 40 minutes or less, just all depending. So I think you have to be careful when utilizing the carbohydrate supplement, because they highly recommended actually liquid carbs is what they said. Simple, easy to get down. Like you're not sitting there eating like a big carbohydrate fueled breakfast kind of thing. It's not like a whole bunch of bread and stuff like that. So for me, I said what I went to, even though like the study showed like, yes, the carbs did help. I think it would be beneficial maybe like for a higher volume, higher reps kind of workout, maybe. Or if you wanted to for heavier days, like if you're doing a back squat and you're doing a 1 rep max, they talked about sets to failure, stuff like that, then maybe, sure. But on a typical training session day, for me, it didn't sway me to want to consume a carbohydrate drink prior to or even after the workout. I don't know. Trampus, what
Yeah,
did
that
you?
makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's just on that note, I was longer than 45 minutes is kind of open-ended. Like, I wonder, does that mean they were doing, a 2-hour session, or is
Yeah.
that like what we do? We train an hour a day, because if it's just an hour a day, I'm probably not going to do anything extra above what I would normally do to get ready for it. But I mean, if these are two-hour sessions or something like that, yeah, you probably need to take that into consideration. But within the study itself, it didn't really break down. It didn't really break down what longer than 45 minutes meant. Um, but I also thought it was interesting. Some of the dosages were different in just the way they approached it. Like they, for a few of them, it was across the board 30 grams of carbs, and I'm making stuff up. But then also a lot of them they did it off of like actual body weight, maybe
Yeah.
like actually looking at what somebody might need for this.
I think it was 25 up to 75 grams, right? Of carbs,
Yeah.
I believe. Sorry.
But then also, they looked at uh, whether the person had been fasted or not, and that was another like portion of it. And it appeared that the carbs were more beneficial to people that had fasted less than 8 hours. So I thought that was interesting that somebody who had fasted less than 8 hours um, saw more benefit than someone who hadn't had anything in their system. And I don't know if that's like your body's been geared up to process these and it's able to continue processing them or use them
That's
or
what I would
what.
think. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know the science behind it, but I thought that was interesting as well. Um, and the other thing that I didn't really see mentioned was like their just overall diet throughout the different studies. Like it didn't, and maybe the individual studies did take into account, but as far as the meta-analysis, it didn't appear like they looked at what the participants were eating on a regular basis. 'Cause I feel like all that plays such a big role in how you perform during a workout. It could have been something else outside of just the carbs during the workout or right before that was impacting the performance.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are my main takeaways.
I think the only time we ever get into like performance conversations with garage gym athletes over the last couple of years, performance nutrition, should I say, is anyone who's struggling with performance issues when they do implement some sort of fast, when they have not previously been fasting and they notice some sort of drop in performance. So they add a 16-hour fast to their day and they're doing morning training and they feel sluggish or like they are unable to perform at the same level. That's the first one that we've talked to athletes about a lot. And then the second one is typically surrounding an event. So someone will have some sort of weekend event. So that could be like a Spartan race, a bike race, a long run. And we're talking more about performance nutrition there. I think, what Ashley said originally was when we're looking at garage gym athlete training, and I would say almost any type of training out there, if you are just eating a well rounded diet, your concern for pre-workout nutrition isn't that important because your body should be able to just sustain. And for everyone listening, if you're unfamiliar with glycogen, that is your body's stored form of carbohydrate. So your body stores carbohydrate, stores it both in the liver and in the muscle. And so your body will pull on those reserves to fuel a workout, and they last about an hour. I mean, it's not necessarily that you have 100% reduction, but after about an hour, that's where your body might start to struggle. And one thing I've always brought up is you never truly know when your glycogen stores are like topped off. There's no way for you to know that. Like for you to be like, yeah, I'm feeling like my glycogen stores are at max capacity right now. You don't really know that. And so that's one thing that I've always struggled with in giving advice from coach to athlete is like, where's that line? But I don't think it matters that much. I think everyone should experiment with this. And my best my best experience with this was cycling. And so most of my rides on the weekend were always more than an hour. And I noticed almost exactly after 1 hour of hard ride, not like a zone 2 lackadaisical ride, like a hard ride, that is where I would run out of energy. And so I would have to fuel with carbohydrates preemptively to try and combat that. And that was such a great experience for me a couple of years ago and getting to play with those. And I think that's what people need to do. If you're concerned about your performance in an upcoming event, don't worry about recreating the event. Because if you're doing a 5-hour Spartan race, you can't go do a 5-hour Spartan race to prepare for the event. But you could probably go do a 2-hour run, a 2-hour jog, and see where things start to break down, where you're not feeling good. And I think that works on multiple layers. So one, you might be like, oh, wow, here's what I ate. I had no fuel, and here's where I ran out of energy. And you can start to combat that because that's exactly what your biology is going to do when it comes down to race day. And then also, it's a good idea if you're doing a longer race like that to wear the shoes that you're going to wear and the clothes that you're going to wear. That way you can find out like, oh, this shirt, rubs my nipples raw, or this, these shoes give me a blister after anything more than 30 minutes of running. Like, you want to know those things before you get to the event.
Those are real thing.
Those are real things.
Padded shorts for your 100-mile bike ride or something.
Yeah, like you find out what you're going to need to do. I padded. I think I padded everything when I did my last race. It was like I wore like padded shorts with like padded underwear and then like a pad on the seat.
As you should. That's a long time to be on that bike.
A long time. Well, yeah. When you don't spend as much time in the saddle as you should for a race like that, it makes sense. If you cycle like every single day, then your body just gets used to it. I'm sure I've never cycled that much, but
I'm messing around with biking a little bit, but I remember the first time I was talking about it with you, and I mean, it wasn't even long. It was like a 10-mile ride. I mean, it wasn't even anything. I said, "Gosh, it hurts. I can't imagine going any longer." He's like, well, "You don't have the like padded underwear," and yeah. I'm like, "Do what?" I had no idea this existed. Like,
so coming back to glycogen and carbohydrates, performance for your event. That's one thing. And now if you are, the only other situation where I think it matters is if you are getting into, you're experimenting with fasting and anything like that. And my recommendation for athletes there, if you are really wanting to do the fasting, like you're more bought into wanting to do that, I won't try and change your mind on it. So then do that, but then just try and see if your body catches up over time. There's always going to be a transitionary period. And so like, we're not training for the Olympics. Let's have some decrease in performance, stick with the consistency, keep doing it, and see how you feel over time. Because I think that fasting helped me in a lot of ways get rid of the need for fueling before and after, and all those things. And I felt very differently before I had started fasting. So I think that it did help me in that regard. And now, and I've mentioned on the podcast multiple times, I like do nothing to prepare for a training session. Like, I don't even drink water during a workout, which I've gotten like some crap for, because I'm not like promoting that. I'm not saying you shouldn't drink water. I just don't do it.
I don't drink. Hour.
Yeah,
You're
it's
not
1
gonna
hour of your
die.
life. That's exactly how I feel. I don't, I don't drink any water. I don't eat anything before, but I take afterwards very seriously. And so
Right.
that's where I think that it matters. So I'll have water, electrolytes, I'll get protein, all these things. Like I'll make sure that I'm really good on the post workout stuff. But um, if you are an athlete who trains for an hour a day and you're worried about your amino acids or your carbohydrates at the 30-minute mark in between a 60-minute session, you're doing way more harm psychologically than you are doing for your physique or anything else. Completely unnecessary. I'm sure somebody sold you on that idea,
Mhm.
but if that person who sold you on that idea also sells you the supplements that you're taking to coincide with that idea, you may be able to link A and B together there. The fact that they coincide. So yeah, if you're training an hour a day, you're good. That's my ultimate takeaway for garage gym athletes listening to this in the study. I also agree with Ashley on the 1 rep max thing. Um, if you have something really important coming up, like you do want to like crush a fit week, or your performance is important, I wouldn't hold back. I wouldn't do what I do on a daily basis and just be like, you know what, I'm sure I'm good. I'm sure I'll be fine. I would be a little bit more. I'm not saying I would have like this specific carbohydrate cocktail before I go to do my training session, but I would make sure like sometimes I backload a lot of my calories in the day, like unexpectedly. Like I probably only eat 20% of my calories during the workday. And then I train. And then after I train, I eat 80% of my calories from like 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. It's just, that's
Makes
how I
sense
do it.
because you're sedentary, kind
Yeah,
of.
it's just like, it's not strategic. It's just kind of like natural. It's like, I'm not hungry when I'm just sitting around doing nothing. And so I would make sure that I eat more. Back to my point of the 1 rep max, I would be like making sure that I had whatever I was going to have that day sooner. So if I was going to have a banana or oatmeal or something with more carbohydrates, I would try and make sure I had that whatever an hour before training, or just make sure I had it that day. That way my body's ready to utilize those things. And so those are the only considerations I would take into account, carbohydrates for an athlete.
I know
Um,
when I was going through Murph, that's another one, like, just because of the volume,
yeah,
just the amount of reps, like, I would definitely try to eat something before Murph, and then sometimes I would have, like, some honey sitting back after that first mile, you know? Just take a bite
like
of
one of the
honey.
fastest acting
Yeah,
ones there. Yeah.
and, just to have it, and I noticed a difference, and I think I've heard Joe talk about he would get nauseous during Murph if,
He almost passed out one day.
yeah, he would get nauseous
I'm still
during
trying
Murph
to
if
get him
he
to figure
hadn't,
that shit out. Yeah.
if he didn't have something on his stomach. So just another one to think about.
Because if that happened to me, I'd be like, all right, let's recreate this and see.
Right.
Right,
Joe's
let's
like,
see.
oh, you get sick doing that, don't do it again. Which is a more like that's a more standard approach to things. I don't necessarily fault it, but I would rather be like, I don't want that to happen. So what do I do? And to your point, another thing I forgot to mention. So just bioenergetics 101. If there's a scale, you have fat on one side and you have carbohydrates on the other side. And when you are completely sedentary, doing nothing, walking, low aerobic output, your body is utilizing and burning fat. When you're at the other end of that spectrum, we're talking about zone 4 activity, zone 5 activity, high aerobic output, fast runs, a lot of muscle involvement. You're now burning nearly straight carbohydrates, especially at zone 5. It's quite impressive. Your body is just like burning sugar purely and nothing else. And so that's something for you to know as well. I think your activity would matter because in this study specifically, they're looking at lifting, just lifting. And
Right.
that's kind of what we've been talking about. But if you were gearing up for a 40-minute Murph, that might be different. If it's a 40-minute zone 4 Murph, that is different because you might burn, especially if it's in the morning, whatever, you might burn through all of your usable glycogen stores in 20 minutes and then you feel like crap and you want to throw up. Joe, right? Like that might be what he's doing. But then you could add some carbohydrates into that and you'll be able to shoot through that without having as much pain or performance breakdown or whatever the symptom would be. And so that is one thing that I should note there, because we really only talk about lifting. But once you add intensity into that, it does change a little bit, and you might want to plan for it a little bit differently.
Be careful the carbs you're ingesting too. Like, don't just go drink some Gatorade.
Yeah, what do you think
Jerred,
we should? What are some good recommendations for pre-fueling carbs?
you had a Quip, right? And they were slow. Weren't they sweet potato that you
Yeah,
would drink?
I almost forgot about those. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I should order some more of those. Just an easier way to get sweet potatoes.
Yeah. Oh gosh, no.
I'm
A
so
less
lazy when it comes to
tasty way.
nutrition. I like want to be healthy, but I'm lazy at the same time.
I guess
But
it.
those are
I guess it depends on how much time you have in between. Like, are you eating an hour before? Or are you eating immediately before? You know, I
Yeah,
would
I
think.
mean, I think that's what makes a difference, because I I don't want to eat a sweet potato an hour before. I mean, I probably would, but yeah, I think what was the supplement I? There was a carbohydrate supplement, I forgot what it's called. There's like a slow digesting. It's like pure carb supplement. I can't even remember the name of it now.
that's
I used
what
to take
you
it.
gave us before the Spartan.
Yeah, I used to take it all the time before
Oh
before I
man.
do bike rides. And so there are things like that. They're made out of this like cornstarch or something. It's a really slow digesting carbohydrate. Those are good, more specifically for like those kind of events, because they are
Right.
like slow digesting. Your body uses it for longer periods of time. If you did want to like consume something right before, I would say fruit. I mean, I think fruit is a phenomenal option over Gatorade or whatever, because your body will use fructose very quickly, and it's a lot healthier
You
than
can blend
Gatorade.
it up and drink it if you want, get you some antioxidants in on top of it. You can like double whammy it.
I mean, I feel like a banana is my go-to for
Banana is true.
if I need carbohydrates. They're very cheap, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And I haven't bought one in a long time. So they're very cheap, and they're just great. They have a lot of sugar, and your body will use it. So it's a great fruit to go for.
I think that powder you used was UCAN. That sound right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think you're right. Yeah, yeah. You can.
UCAN. UCAN.
Yeah, you're right.
Or
You're right.
yeah.
That's it. Some good stuff. I was gonna say something else about pre-workout. No, fruits. I don't think there's anything else.
No Gatorade.
Oh, Gatorade.
Here we go.
Gatorade. No,
Here.
so Gatorade has some new options out on the market. And no, we're not sponsored by Gatorade at all. I just saw this because as I was at a gas station, I ended up buying one for Graham before a soccer football game combo that he had. We like needed something, and it's called Gatorade Rehydrate. I'm totally just plugging their products for you, but they don't need my marketing help. Trust me. So it only has like 11 or 12 grams of sugar in it compared to like 40 or whatever for one
Yeah.
of their bigger things. And it has a ton of electrolytes, very, very high in sodium. And that's one thing I've always given Gatorade crap for, is like their standard Gatorade drink is so silly. It's just juice. It's like a kid's
Mhm.
juice, like high sugar, no nutritional value. You can't even really argue that there are enough electrolytes to be beneficial in standard Gatorade. But I think they finally caught on that the market is catching on, that everything they're talking about is BS. And they came out with that, which is lower in sugar, higher in electrolytes. And then they also have like the G Fit stuff that just whatever has like fake sugar, but higher electrolytes in it. So they're coming around. I'll give them a C, up
Okay.
from
I
an
was
F.
like,
No, yeah. I mean, I'd much rather get my electrolytes any other way, but yeah. So get your carbs. Is that the takeaway for the garage gym athlete? Get your carbs. Don't get your carbs. Who cares? Do whatever you want.
I think it all depends. I think we kind of hit the nail on the head on
Yeah.
that one.
All right. Well, let's get to the study, or not the study, the workout. Meet Yourself Saturday. Do either one of you have it pulled up?
Zone 2 Murph? You don't even
Yeah.
need it pulled up.
I don't, but I could probably do it.
You think you could wing it?
Yeah.
All right. Whoever. I mean, I
Trappist,
don't want
you
to put it
got
on
it,
the
bro.
spot with a memory recall here.
Let's see. I think you run a mile. You do 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 squats, and then you run a mile.
Yep.
And you can do the calisthenics in the middle, partitioned to any way possible. And there are several ways possible. But you do all of that without your heart rate going below or above your zone 2 heart rate zone.
Did you mention a vest?
70.
Yeah. I mean, if you're a competitor, wear a vest, I guess. If you're like
Zone 2 of the vest is very
Okay.
hard.
if you're like a freak, just go ahead, yeah, wear a vest.
Yeah, that's it.
You have a 60-minute time cap.
60-minute time cap. So what tips do you have for zone 2 Murph?
The push-ups are where I feel like you're going to be able to get your heart rate down and do strict pull-ups. So don't kip, obviously. So then obviously scale those down if you can't do strict pull-ups. But I find my heart rate spikes when I'm doing those air squats. So try to breathe through those. Breathing is huge in zone 2 for me as well. I think it should be for everybody. But yeah. Those zone 2 miles, I mean, you can only go so fast before your heart rate is going to start spiking again. So I don't know.
Yeah. So I did this a handful of times. I would say what worked best for me was just splitting the cows up into little chunks. You know, do a couple reps, check your watch or whatever, do a few more. Resting on my knees is what would always get my heart rate down the fastest. So if you're
clarify resting on your knees. What does that mean?
literally, I would just like to go from the push up. Like what I would
Like
do is
drop
I would
down
do
to your knees?
Yeah, I would do the
Okay.
pull-ups. I would get the pull-ups over, and then I would go to my knees and rest. And then I would do
I didn't know if you meant hands on knees.
No,
or-
not hands on
yeah.
knees, because that's a good resting position if you don't want to go all the way to the ground. But since you've got to go to the ground when you're doing the push-ups, just go ahead and go to the ground and let your heart rate settle. Do the push-ups. I do 5 push-ups. Sit back for a second. Do 5 more.
That's a lot more movement. I just lay there.
Well, I guess it is more
I just
movement.
lay there with my arms out. My face down.
What's Jerred doing? Starfish.
My heart rate's too high.
I didn't want to freak anybody out. Nah, she's definitely walked out in the garage, and I've been laying there. She'll be okay. And then the other thing was I have a pretty hilly neighborhood, so I would do everything I could to find a flatter area to run if it's possible, because hills will jack you up pretty easily. But yeah, those are my tips.
Yeah, do it at a track that has a pull-up bar. That's a good. It's a good tip. I don't have many. I think I'm in line with both things that you said, and yeah, let me think. I love the mental side of this one. I don't have any more physical tips because it does like screw with everybody's brain, and that's the best part about the whole thing. Because everyone's like all like gung ho to start it, and then once your heart rate just keeps clipping up to zone 3, and you start getting pissed off, and then you realize you are not going to be able to finish the workout. It's just there's a lot of anger involved, and that's great. That's what we need. We need more anger in your brain so you can learn how to control it and change it. But that's it. Just know that's the intent. It's way more like a lot of Meet Yourself Saturday has to do with the mental side of everything and not us necessarily trying to improve your physical fitness, even though you will doing a zone 2 Murph. But it's a lot of like learning how to control yourself, which I think is a good skill to have.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I know it's a 1 hour time cap, but like this isn't a very dangerous one to keep going if you have the time and want to finish it. I mean, this is more so just so that you're not working out for whatever 2.5 hours a day.
Yeah, I don't even know why.
Or 90 minutes. I mean,
I don't know why I capped it, because to be honest, we program Murph all the time.
I think it was more to like see like if you could do this in 60 minutes, right? Like to see
Yeah.
how
fitness
you
test.
improved, right?
Yeah, I think the
next
goal
time.
should always be to get one under 60. But like
I'm
it's not
vested there.
super dangerous. It's not super dangerous
Vested,
to keep going.
not so much.
Yeah, the vest is a game changer.
Ugh.
Well, that's it for the workout. Let's do some quick updates from everybody. How's life, Ashley?
No, it's good. Kind of good.
Well, all right. Let's get kind of good with an asterisk. Let's see. Let's hear more about that.
So I announced last podcast that I'm pregnant. I think I told the boys, I feel like I've fallen down the pregnancy tree and I'm just hitting every single branch along the way. So I went from being sick to not sleeping with a whole lot of other things. So not sleeping is just a huge game changer. I'm also solo parenting because my husband's gone doing training like 98% of the time, working full time and taking care of Connor. So it's a lot. So my workouts these days, as of last week, I walk 3 times a week. I try to get 3 times a week because I'm so tired. I don't really want to do anything. I thought about there's some prenatal yoga stuff out there. I thought about maybe incorporating that, but yeah, I really miss training. I really miss barbells. But yeah, that's where I've been. I'm still around. I'm still here. I just a little different. Growing a human, and she's killing me slowly but slowly. Surely,
I talk to Ashley like every day, just so everyone knows. We're good.
I'm alive. Yeah, but no, we're good. We're in San Antonio, finally settled. It's a good time here. Trampus, what's going on with you?
If you've listened to the podcast over the last few months, you know what has happened to me. But I think this past weekend, spending 4 days with Joe Courtney, his wife, and a few other garage gym athlete couples was probably the most traumatic thing that's ever happened to me.
Yeah, you're good for a couple of years.
I mean, we had a great time. Don't get me wrong. Physically, though, I have set myself back probably a decade. I mean,
So was there a lot of diesel through the engine there? Is that what you're telling me?
Gracious.
There was so much diesel through the purely gasoline engine. Like
I didn't even get an invite to this Vegas trip because they knew. I'm taking it as they just knew Jerred Moon will not go on a Vegas trip with basically anybody.
Well, I mean, you said I'm good for a couple of years. I honestly don't know that me and my wife could handle going back. Like, it was fun. I think everyone should experience it. I think you should go wild when you get there. You really should. Like within legal.
I went like 2 months ago. I don't know if you know that.
But. Yeah, I think I heard.
It was a work trip.
Yeah, I mean, I know that you didn't do anything either, but like,
yeah,
not much.
We came back to our room at like 8:30 or something like that, and they were doing like a turn down service on the hotel was, and we're like, get out of here, it's bedtime. What are you doing? They're like, oh.
Well, I mean, most
of
y'all
you want us to come back at
Coast.
11? We're like, absolutely not. Don't come back at 11. We'll be fast asleep.
Yeah, our experiences were different. I'll just tell you that. We did have a great time, but just if you go with Joe, just be prepared to walk and drink and eat good food because that's what we did. But,
wait, so he does an unusual amount of walking?
We walked a lot. We walked a lot.
And that's Joe's fault?
He had us snaking around all these different little bars and restaurants and stuff that him and Liz have found over the years. But no, it's a good time.
Yeah. That's great.
Joe Courtney Vegas tour.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a great tour guide. And we all said that because we're fairly certain that if it would have just been like the other 3 couples, because none of us had really been, we would have just been walking around aimlessly and have never decided on doing anything.
Or you would have picked like one bar and that would have been.
Yeah. And that's
you go back there every day. You feel a little more comfortable each day. That's your spot. I know you.
No, you're right. You're right. No, 100%.
That's
get settled in. Just get settled in. But Jerred, how's your life going?
Yeah, absolutely great. Whatever. I'm working out every single day, most days, and that's about it. I do a lot of practices with kids and games. I've been trying to turn those into like doing something. It took me a long time. Like I used to do this and then I stopped doing it. But I have to like walk and listen to an audiobook or something while they're at practice now. I used to be real like, I'm going to watch you because I'm your dad and I'm a nice
'Cause
guy.
I'm your dad.
But I will watch their games. Okay.
Yeah,
And
for
I do
sure.
watch some of their practices, but we were talking before the podcast started, like yesterday, once I leave the house, if I go to all the kids' practices, I'm gone for like somewhere between 5 and 6 hours. And so I can't just sit in a chair or a stadium seat or whatever that entire time when I'm gone. It's just too much inactivity. So I've added some walks to that, and listening to an audiobook or audiobooks, podcasts, stuff like that. And a lot of them are on a field I can circle, and so I can still kind of see what they're doing or whatever. So that's one way I'm trying to add a little bit of activity. I don't count it as my 300. It's just additional work to be done. But yeah, that's it.
You almost
That's really
done? 300?
I gotta be close. I don't know.
I don't know.
I swear, like I've mentioned it multiple times, but I don't know the grand total. I don't keep track of that. All I do is I make sure that I train 6 days per week. Check that box. After that box, I make sure that I get 300 minutes in a week. And then, because I know mathematically, so long as I do those two things, I'm going to be fine. And I've only missed that
spreadsheet that, like, from your Garmin.
I do, but it hasn't updated. It doesn't update. I leave my phone on airplane mode a lot, or my watch, so it doesn't sync all the time. And so if I don't go sync it like intentionally, so it's probably like 2 or 3 months behind, honestly.
Oh my.
What's that?
Oh my.
Yeah, it might break to where like, well, what's funny is like I did that where other people would be able to track it. So if anyone's like looking at that page I made, that's inaccurate right now. Okay, I will update it at some point, because the only data that you can pull all this data from Garmin if you have a Garmin. Like I just did that for other people to be able to see, but you can log into Garmin and it will tell you how many minutes you trained that week, how many training sessions you've had in a month, all those things, just like at a glance, you can see that stuff. So Garmin's been really helpful in being able to look at that data. But I know I'm on track. I think I've only not trained 6 days per week, maybe 3 weeks this year, maybe 4 weeks total. And so, and then that's with having done 7-day weeks multiple times as well. So it all averages out. So I don't know. I should be pretty close.
Yeah, I was like, you're about. What about you, Travis? I know that you had to like take time off, but you got a doctor's note, so you're good to go.
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't.
Just want to talk about it.
I'm out. I can't even do 100 if I wanted to.
I'm gonna have Marco come on when it's all said and done. So I think only 2 of us made it.
Yeah, I don't think Joe made it either.
I made it. I'm at 212 right now, and I think there's a chance
how many
that I could be over 290, but I don't think I can be at 300 with just how many days are left.
There's 79 days left in the year 2022
of
recording this. So how many did you say you needed? Oh, but you're close. You just don't miss a day. You're close.
I need 88.
So you are screwed.
I'm screwed. I did do the 200 challenge though, and Club 280, as Joe called it the other day. So.
Club 280. Oh,
close-ish. Great work. All right. Well, that's how our lives are going and everything else. But that'll be it for this one. For all of the Garage Gym athletes out there, thank you so much for being a part of the community and doing the training. You guys are awesome. For anyone who does want to be a part of the training, the things that we're doing, you can go to garagegymathlete.com and sign up for a 14-day free trial. We would love to have you. Remember, if you don't kill comfort, comfort will kill you. Athlete Podcast. If you want to learn more, go to garagegymathlete.com. You can learn about our training. Let us send you a copy of our book, The Garage Gym Athlete, or you can even get featured on the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. Thanks for listening.